Hi, this is Katie with craftingwithkatie.com, and today I am making a card for some friends of mine who just bought their first house, and I found a very cute house-shaped card in the Cricut Wildcard 2 cartridge. So here it is, and one of the things about this particular cartridge I've noticed is I will tend to overlook different cuts in the handbook just because of the colors they use. I mean, who has a blue tree? But anyways, if you kind of look beyond that and think about what kind of fun papers you can use, it makes it look a lot better. So another thing that this cartridge and a lot of the newer ones has is it shows you the smallest size you should cut to make it work with such some of the intricate cuts. So for this card, the smallest is 4.5 inches. And that would be the size from the bottom of the card until where you fold it. So I already know, because it's wider this way, it's not going to be an A2 size card. So what I'm going to do is make a card that will fit in a 5x7 envelope, which is an A7 size card. Okay, I've gone ahead and opened up a 12x12 mat, and since I want my card to be 5 inches tall, I'm going to change the height to 5 inches. And I'm actually going to put the real size button on to make sure, because sometimes it doesn't correlate with the actual size. So I'm going to the Wildcard 2, and we'll start by taking the card base, which is that one, and this is the house right here. Okay, actually, because I have the real dial size button on, it's made my entire card 5 inches, so I'm actually going to double that, change it to 10 inches tall. Okay, so as you can see now, I have a height of 10 inches, but my width is 7.48 inches. And that's actually too wide for a 5x7 card. It'll be too wide for the envelope. So I'm just going to go ahead and change the width to 7. We'll click OK. And now the height is 9.36 inches. Now, to make sure that all of my layers work correctly, what I need to do now is take off the real dial size and notice that the height that I need all my layers to be, which is 4.68 inches. So I'm going to leave this on this layer, but I'm going to open up a new layer, and this will be for some of my layers. So I'm going to change my height to 4.68 inches. And then I'm going to go start collecting the pieces of the layer. Okay, so I need the card layer. So I have card on. I'm going to hit Shift and get the layer for that. Then I'm going to go back to the main image. There's a layer here. If I hit Shift, I get the next piece. Then if I hit the layer button, I'm going to take off the Shift, I get this piece, and hit Shift and get the last piece. So I'm pulling all of my layers in at once. So, and as you can see, I can just drag this down so you can see from the card shape beneath that it's the right size by changing it to 4.68. So we can't see all the layers, they're going off the screen. So what you need to do then is ungroup them, and then you can drag them around where you're going to want to cut them. Okay, so my next step is to figure out what types of papers I'm going to be using and putting them in layers according to that. So for example, I use a lot of paper tray ink cardstock, which is a really thick cardstock. So the settings for that would be different than what I might use for a pattern paper. So looking at my card here, this base right here has the clouds. So I know I'm going to use some kind of white that'll be a paper tray. So I'm going to keep that on here. Now this layer here is for kind of where you see the light peeking through the windows. So I'll probably also use a paper tray, maybe a pale yellow. And this one is the actual house, so this will be like the roof, the door, and the tree trunk. I'll probably use a dark brown paper tray, so I'm going to keep that one also. This one is the tree, and you know, I like to use kind of a fun pattern paper, but I don't think I would want the pattern paper for the trim and the chimney, so I'm actually going to copy this. So I'm going to take off layer 1 so it's not showing through in the back and confusing us. Hit the eyeball. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to Advanced, and I'm going to make a copy of this. Oh, oops, I'm ahead of myself. I'm going to make a copy of it. There we go. Now we're going to use that button because for this piece, I want to keep what's going to go the trim. And to be honest, I don't think I'm going to use paper tray cardstock for the trim either because it's very, it's hard with the really small details with my Cricut. And so actually I know that these 3 pieces, I'm going to cut all of these probably with some kind of thinner paper or pattern paper. So I'm going to group them all together and put them on a new layer. So I'm going to hit the group and take these 3, start a new layer, and then we're going to go ahead and paste them onto here. Okay, now I'm going to go back to layer 2 and delete those 3 off of that page since I don't need to cut them twice. Okay, so then you can arrange your, depending on your paper size, you can arrange your cuts and where you want them. Okay, let's go back to layer 3. So now I have this shape duplicated. I'm going to turn off layer 2, and we're going to go ahead and ungroup all of these. So I want my trims to be one color, but not the top of the tree. So what I'm going to do is click on that, go to the Advanced tab, and click this button where I can go ahead and hide things. So I just want to hide the tree, and actually I'm just looking to see what is, I have no idea what this little dot is for. Since I don't know, I'm going to cut it out of both of them. So I'm just going to hide the tree here. So I'm going to click on my button on the side. You could also be hitting next until the tree part's highlighted. There we go, and hit hide. And then I'll hit OK. And then I'll do the same thing on this one, but this time I'm going to get rid of all of these little buttons here. And with my left thumb, which you can't see, I'm hitting the silver button on the side that brings you through all of the cuts. And I missed one, so we'll just go backwards. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to cut this out of a color, this out of some kind of pattern, and then this is the actual like house itself, so I'll probably do a cute pattern for that. Alright, so let's go ahead and get all of these cut. Okay, I've got all my pieces cut out, and I ended up pulling from my scrap, so I have no idea where this green came from. But this is from Paper Tray Ink. I believe the pack is called Library Ledger. And then it's just a pattern paper, so it's thin. And then I ended up using a Paper Tray Ink cardstock just so I get something that matched well for the window frame. So this is Aqua Mist, and then I used the dark chocolate for that layer, lemon tart, and then rustic white. So what I want to do now is take this part that has the roof, and I have a Paper Tray Ink stamp, and it's from this set. It's called Background Basics Farm and Barn. And I'm going to be using the one that looks like some wooden boards, and I'm not sure how this is going to turn out. So I'm going to try it on the back first and see if I like it. So I'm just going to do some dark chocolate ink on top of the dark chocolate cardstock just to give it a subtle look. So we'll get that inked up really well. And I'm just going to turn this so I can see it better. And I like it. It just gives it a nice, more wood look. So I'm going to turn it over and I'll go ahead and stamp the rest. And the door, if you see, if I put this here, it's going to go right there. So I'm going to actually start by getting one that goes right up and gets that door also. Get it nice and inked up. So I want it like right about there. There we go. And then I'm going to just turn this, and I can actually just do like the top part of the stamp now. I'm just going to try to line it up. And it looks like I'll need, well, I might not need any more there. Let's see if I put the tree here. Yeah, well, it's one little teeny bit. Okay, now I'll do up there. It's hard to see exactly where to line it up. That's good. So it's all coming out pretty well except that little spot there, but that's okay. I'm actually going to end up putting a sentiment across there, so you probably won't even notice. Okay. So I think that adds just a nice textured look to it. So our next step is to get our sentiment on there. I'm going to do that with some heat embossing. So I'm just going to place these here so I know what the spacing looks like. So I really like how the wood green turned out. That looks cute. Alright, so I'm thinking I want the sentiment right in that middle part, like above the door. And the one I'm using is from My Creative Time. And it's from this stamp set called Home Sewn. And I'm going to use the Home Sweet Home sentiment. So, actually, before I do all this, I forgot one step. But when I heat emboss, I always like to first get like a dryer sheet and go over the area just so you don't get those extra little embossing clinging places. So I'm going to put that there. Just place these again just to help me center it. Okay, so I've got my sentiment here. I'm going to put some Versamark ink on it. And I think I'll put it right under the windows. Okay, so now I'm just going to get some embossing powder. This is white embossing powder that I got from Paper Tray Ink. I'll get that on there. Try to flick off the excess. And it's really sticking, and I have a feeling that's because I stamped there. So I'm just going to get a paintbrush and try to wipe off the extra. Okay, so now we're just going to heat emboss this. Alright, that looks very cute. So the next step is I am going to ink up some of the edges here. So I'm going to do all of these pieces. The yellow I don't need to do because it hides behind the brown. And for the white I could just do around the clouds. Okay, so I'm going to use some Tim Holtz Distress Ink and Vintage Photo. And I'm just going to go around the edge of these different cuts. Okay, now that everything is inked up, I'm going to punch a hole for this little brad to use as a doorknob. So I'm just going to lay this here to see where I want it. And I have a 1/16 inch punch. I think I'll just do it right about here. And then we're ready to get this card put together. The first thing we need to do is actually score the card base. Now, one of the things that the different card cartridges have are score lines, but I don't like the way that looks when I fold mine, so I usually, what I didn't show on camera was I went back and I got rid of the score line for the card. There were a couple notches here and here. I just don't like them showing through, and it's easy enough to figure out where to score it yourself. So I'm just going to find the center here, score this, and let's see how the card goes. It's this way. So, and then before you rub it across, just make sure it's all really lined up nicely. There, and now I have my card base. So this paper I used is just some craft paper from Hobby Lobby. I think it was by the Paper Studio. So the first layer that goes on is the white one with the clouds. So what I'm going to do is use mostly ATG, and then I'll add on a couple of dots of glue on those little parts I can't get to so well with this. Okay, so I have my Scotch Quick Dry just to get little areas like this chimney. Okay. And if you see on this one, all I did was ink around the clouds because that's all that's going to show up. And I didn't worry about it getting here because you'll see it's going to just get covered up. So the next layer is the yellow layer. So again, I'll start with the ATG. As you can see, I've sped up the video here so that you don't have to watch all of this long process of adhering everything together. But I did leave for you a little surprise at the end when I almost completely destroyed my card. Oh shoot. I forgot the actual house. Good thing that came up. That is a little problem. It was actually kind of cute as an all brown house though. Except for the fact that I didn't ink everything. There we go. Now let's try this again. So how cute is our finished card? And I just want to compare for you the picture in the handbook. So as you can see, some of the pictures in the handbook, you'll look and think, I don't know about that cut. But once you pull out your own papers and do some stamping, it really turns out cute. So thanks for watching.